High school football playoffs getting started. And joining us for the final time this season, Stephen Orr with the West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show. Stephen, it's like we just started talking to you.
Well, it has gone rather quickly, hasn't it?
It has.
11 weeks later, and here we are in the first round of the playoffs.
And we have a bunch of teams in the playoffs, as what normally happens, and this is the round where you see a bunch of blowouts, right?
Well, that's kind of what we saw last night as we got started. But, yeah, I mean, there's some really good games, but there's a lot of mismatches. When you go 4 deep in a district, and a lot of those districts are 6 deep, 6 teams in the district, you're going to get the mismatches. Some of the games from last night that were kind of like that, you got the Monahans Lobos beating Denver City 62-7. Argyle beats Snyder 49-14. Canadian beats Lubbock Roosevelt 54-0 in playoff action. And I'm looking around, but then you get a game like Panhandle and Sundown. The Roughnecks go and take on the Panhandle Panthers, and Panhandle has a miscue on a point after touchdown, and it turns out to be the deciding factor in the game. 21-20 is your final in that ball game. And then Seagraves and Bovina, a good ball game, 52-49 in that one. And then you got Sudan taking on Roscoe, and the Plowboys get to win there 39-26. So a little bit of a mixed bag, and I think that's kind of what we're going to see as we go on into the games that we play tonight. Is there's going to be some really good games, and there's going to be some games that are not so much.
What are some of the, I guess, the local, the area teams doing as far as playoff action this week?
Well, Friendship is out in El Paso at Socorro, and they'll take on El Paso Americas. Americas comes out as the top seed out of their district in Division II, and they're going to play Friendship. The winner of that game will play the winner of Abilene High and Arlington High School. That game going on at Shotwell. And Friendship, they've had some pretty good success against the teams out of El Paso over the years. This should be a pretty good ball game, and we'll see if Friendship can advance their first year playing up in the big boys bracket in 6A. We get down into 5A, the District 4 teams that we've followed all year. Lubbock Coronado in Division 1. What an interesting game as they take on Amarillo Caprock. And Amarillo Caprock comes in at 8-2 on the year, and they've been very good. Not quite as high scoring as when Coach Seth Parr, coach of Coronado, was at Caprock, but they're still very good, and the losses they've had have been good to good teams. We know about Coronado. We've followed them all year. They've been very solid all year long, and this should be a really good ball game. Coronado needs to play good defense, but the interesting thing, Coach Seth Parr, with his current team, coaching against the team that he left to come to Coronado. So there's a little side note on that one there. You drop down, and also we've got Amarillo High taking on Lubbock Monterey. This is out at Lowry Field. By the way, that Coronado game is up at Dick Bivens Stadium at Amarillo, and it will be tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Tonight you've got Amarillo High coming down to take on Lubbock Monterey. Monterey needs to play really good defense against an Amarillo team that will run the ball down your throat. It's what they do. And so it's going to be important for Monterey to get off the field on defense. They're also going to have really good ball security and move the ball down the field. And they want to keep their offense on the field and Amarillo High off, because Amarillo will grind that clock down. They like to control the tempo of the game with their offense, and that's what they'll do there. When we drop down into the smaller Division II of 5A, you've got Lubbock Cooper hosting at home the Canyon High Eagles, another really good ball game. Canyon's been pretty effective all year long, but they've struggled more than they have. Canyon has always been a really high-profile offense, and they continue to do that. They're 8-2 on the year. Their losses come to Amarillo High School, and then they had a loss also to Amarillo Caprock. So this is a game that I think Cooper should win, especially with the home field advantage. That should work in their favor, and I think they have a good chance to advance there as well. The other team out of Division II, Abilene Cooper, that we followed all year long as a part of that district, they defeated Dumas last night, 37-14. So that's how that 5A deal works out. And then 4A Division I, Levelland takes on Clinton Mountain View. Nick Gerber and all the things that he's done at quarterback. This game will be at Fort Stockton. tonight at 7 o'clock, and I don't think Clinton Mountain View stands a chance. They're 4-6 on the year, and the wins they have come to substantially smaller schools than they are. So I feel like that's a pretty solid game for Levelland if they'll show up and play like they need to. Last night, Andrews takes on Borger. Andrews wins that ball game 73-28. And I tell you what, the Andrews team all year long has been really good on offense, but they played a Borger team that came into the ball game with one win on the season, but they still made the playoffs, and that's the result you get. That's one of those beat-down games that we've talked about there. We drop down into Division II. The Perryton Rangers and Seminole will play in Plainview tonight at 7 o'clock, and this is a really good ball game. Seminole has improved quite a bit this year after a couple of really down years. Perryton has been solid all year long, and Seminole is going to need to do a really good job on defense to stay in this one, but a good ball game there. And then drop down, and you've got Bushland taking on Midland Greenwood last night, probably one of the better games that we saw in the playoffs in Division II. Bushland wins that one 49-42. When we drop down into 3A, Littlefield and Crane will play in Andrews tonight. I think Littlefield, with what they've done this year and the way they've improved all year long, I think they've got a good chance in that game. But the Golden Cranes have the history as well. These are two teams that are always in the playoffs, so there's expectations there, and that would be one of our better games. You've got Shallow Water in the playoffs taking on the Wall Hawks, and that's at Snyder tonight at 7 o'clock, and Shallow Water better be ready to play ball because Wall is one of the better teams in the state. They are year in and year out, and they are all business, and Shallow Water is going to have their hands full tonight taking on Wall, but they can get it done if they can really bring their very best game. You've got Muleshoe and Kermit playing in Denver City tonight. I think that's a game that Muleshoe wins, but Kermit has been improving through the latter part of the season, but I think Muleshoe's offense is just too much for them. We drop down into the 2A ranks, Division I. Hale Center took on Stratford at Canyon High School last night, and I don't have the score, but I do know that Stratford won by a lot. Abernathy and Sunray are playing at Bushland tonight. That's a really good ball game. Sunray comes out one of the toughest districts in the state, playing against teams like Stratford. They play against teams like Canadian. That's a really tough district. So I think Abernathy has a really solid first-round playoff competitor, but I think Abernathy comes out on top in that one. We talked about Sundown beating Panhandle by 1 point last night. That was a big game. When you drop down into Division II, the Crosbyton Chiefs take on the Vega Longhorns. Vega has been very good on offense this year. They've also been pretty stingy on defense, and Crosbyton, after struggling early, did manage to establish their ground game late in the year, and I think they could give Vega some trouble there. And then out of that district as well, you've got Clarendon taking on Wheeler. That happened last night, and Wheeler gets the win there by 2 points. When we drop down into six-man football, Happy takes on Anton, Meta has Paducah, Knox City takes on Ropesville, and Nazareth beat White Deer, and then you get into the smaller schools, Petersburg taking on Wood Harrell, and Valley taking on LaForce. So that's kind of where the playoffs set up right now, and the teams that we're watching from this area.
Stephen, what team or teams do you think have the best shot of going the furthest?
I like Lubbock Coronado. I think Coronado has what it takes to make it a couple rounds, maybe 3 rounds deep. They're good. I don't think they've got that deep run, but they've got a really solid chance if they'll play good football to gather up several playoff wins and really establish momentum, maintain that momentum into next year. I think Seth Parr has got that team going really well. Lubbock Cooper, a team that has had some success the last couple of years, if they can just build on what they've done in the past and really play the type of football, if they'll bring their A game and play their best, I think they can. We go down. I want to see what Levelland can do. Nick Gerber has been lights out at times, but where they've struggled is on defense, holding other teams down, and that's where I wonder when they'll get in trouble as far as being able to stop some of these better offenses as your competition gets better and better each week. Andrews looks like they're loaded for bear right now as well. I think that you could see when we drop down Littlefield, I think set up well, and a team that I didn't mention earlier, I just skipped right over them, and I shouldn't have, is Idalou. They take on Dimmitt, and Idalou's a team that I think they've got 3 losses on the record, but Idalou in the past has shown that when it comes playoff time, they seem to take it to another level, and I think they could. Interesting note, Chad, they're taking on Dimmitt up in Canyon, and Dimmitt is in the playoffs for the first time in 40 years.
Wow.
And if they were to beat Idalou tonight, it would be their first playoff victory since 1951.
Wow.
So those kids have a lot of motivation. I mean, they're just proud to be there, but they also could be really motivated to try to notch that first win in 60-some-odd years.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephen, is there a game going on in the Lubbock area that you would say everyone needs to go and see?
I think that Monterey, I would go out to Lubbock Cooper and watch Lubbock Cooper play tonight, or I'd go into Lowry and watch Monterey and Amarillo High. Monterey, if they'll play the type of ball that they have played a lot this year, more often than not, they can be in that game. Amarillo is the favorite, but it wouldn't be just the upset of all upsets if Monterey was to pull that one out.
Stephen Orr, West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show, which you can hear for the final time this season here on KFYO and our sister station, 1340 The Fan. Stephen, it's been a pleasure talking to you during this football season.
Well, Chad, we appreciate all you guys do for us, and, we love high school football, and it's what we do, and we appreciate everybody that listens, that calls in scores. We appreciate the play-by-play guys that call in every week and give us the reports, and we think we've got something really unique, and we love it, and we hope that everybody else does too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to hear at night, and we'll talk to you again next year, and let's hope for a good football playoff season.
You betcha. Thank you, Chad.
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it. That's Stephen Orr, West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show.